Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Zoning Commission. Today's date is September 23rd, 2024, and the time is 5 p.m. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and the minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask those present turn off cell phones or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet upon the front table. I would like to take a moment to review the procedures that the commission will follow tonight. First, the commission will handle the normal housekeeping agenda items, and for each application on the agenda, I will open the public hearing on the item. The planning and zoning staff will then present the staff report, including the staff recommendation. Any letters or other communication received from the public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present his or her case and respond to the staff report. Next, we will hear comments from the public. If you would like to speak either in support of or against the application, you must come to the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments shall be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. Limit of 3 minutes for comments. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the commission. The commission shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the commission. The commission will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any commission member who has an ex parte communication to place in the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of the deliberation of the respective agenda item. And that being said, let roll call reflect that we have all in attendance with the exception of Barb. Next item on the agenda is public comment on matters not on the agenda.
Okay, nobody is on the phone either, but I'd like to take this time to ask the zoning commission to receive into the record comments that have been sent directly to the commission from Mid-American Energy concerning grain bin clearance matters.
Need a motion to accept?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. It has been accepted. Any other comments from the public on matters not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of the previous minute meetings.
I'll only have 2 votes. I'll have to abstain since I wasn't here.
Same.
We only have 2 votes.
We would have to defer them to next
Okay.
month. Then
Do we need a motion to defer?
I would do so.
Okay, we need a motion to defer approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to defer the approval of the minutes.
Tom.
I'll make a motion to defer the approval of the minutes till next month.
Okay, I have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, that brings us to item number 5 on the agenda. The first is a public hearing action item for proposed zoning ordinance map amendment. Dan, do you want to read that information into the record, please?
Yes. Okay. The Sandra K. Baker Revocable Trust applicant, Sandra K. Baker and Jimmy L. and Renee Collier, owners, have submitted an application for a zoning ordinance map amendment to rezone a portion of the property identified as parcel number 884726200002 from the agricultural preservation district to the agricultural estates district. The applicants seek to rezone, which is just a 1.14 acre portion of this parcel, which will be split and combined with lot 1 of the Baker Acre subdivision through the Woodbury County Assessor's combination process, which is effectively like a boundary adjustment. A survey conducted by Al Fagan Land Surveying PC provides the legal description of the portion of the land to be conveyed to the Sandra K. Baker Revocable Trust. This 1.14 acre triangular portion is not eligible for development as a standalone lot because it does not meet the requirements of the zoning subdivision ordinance. In the purchase agreement, Baker acknowledges that the properties being acquired is not a legal lot for building purposes and must be combined with their existing adjacent parcel described as Lot 1 of the Baker Acres property or subdivision. The rezoning is requested so that the new parcel zoning matches that of Lot 1, which is agricultural estates, facilitating the combination into the single parcel for tax purposes. The proposal has been properly noticed in the Sioux City Journal's legal section on September 12, 2024. The neighbors within 1,000 feet have been duly notified via the September 9th, 2024 letter about the tonight's meeting, September 23rd, 2024 of the Zoning Commission, and folks have been requested to comment. Appropriate stakeholders, including government agencies, utilities, and organizations have been notified and have been requested to comment. No objections were received. We did receive a comment from the Winnebago tribe that talked about areas of where ancestral travel may have taken place, but generally they didn't have any major objection. I did reply to them that the goal here is not to develop and disturb the ground. So based on the information received and the requirements set forth in the zoning subdivision ordinance, the proposal meets the appropriate criteria, and it's the recommendation of staff to approve this proposal. We do have representatives from the applicants tonight. It looks like both the property owner, applicant, and attorney are here. So,
Okay. Okay, do we have any comments from the attorney or the applicant, either one at this point?
If you would like comments.
Clarification, information? Nothing new, nothing changed? Dan, are you
The-
gonna say something?
the only comment I have is this is the classic example of our process. This is the most minimal level of doing a rezone. It would be the same process if we were rezoning 20 lots down to just rezoning a small portion to basically execute that boundary adjustment. So a lot of times I like to describe that the ordinance kind of facilitates a process, and each process is different. And kind of with what the tribe had kind of made a comment on, it's important that we oftentimes clarify, the intensity of each project. So, and as a whole, this is a very minimal rezone as far as 1.14 acres. So.
I guess the only comment I'd make is the fact that it fits within the plan. The surrounding or nearby property is ag estates currently. And it's going to be combined to a parcel currently there in ag estates.
If no one has any other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to recommend
Should we
approval.
Close
Close the public.
Close the public hearing, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we can take a motion.
I'd make a motion to recommend the approval of the zoning ordinance map amendment for rezoning from AP to AE on the portion of parcel as presented to the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors with the condition that the remaining portion of the said parcel be combined with Lot 1.
Specifically. Okay. Okay, we've got a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. There you are. Thank you. Next item on the agenda. Public hearing for the consideration of nuclear energy facilities to be included as part of the Woodbury County zoning ordinance summary. This is an action item.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Dan, do you want to read that information into our record, please?
Yes, and just generally, from comments that we made last month, you might recall Michael Montino, Emergency Services Coordinator, attended. Tonight's public hearing is just simply to collect some comments. We did post for this public hearing to kind of gauge how the public may feel about nuclear as a potential option. And so what I did for talking points is I included some potential options of what we could possibly look at doing as far as addressing the land use summary table through a potential conditional use, maybe targeting the industrial districts possibly, and also kind of to reflect how we look at, for example, telecommunication towers, which we'll talk about later this evening, maybe some potential ordinance language that could maybe help facilitate a nuclear process. We had learned from Mr. Montino, and what I've looked at in the research is it's a heavily regulated land use function from the federal level quite a bit. So anything that if we are to looking at opening up nuclear as a potential option via conditional use, we would probably want to have a process that complements the other levels of government where we can, scrutinize the application well enough, but also respectfully fit in with the other layers of government. So I just simply put some potential language in there that we could look at simply as kind of a general talking point. It's not expected to vote on this or recommend it at all, but just to simply kind of start somewhere with some type of language. The last couple months, you were provided with some type of literature. And so the goal tonight was to hopefully maybe collect some comments from the public. So I would just probably suggest if anybody out there has any nuclear comments I'd encourage the chair to request them to come forward. So.
Okay. So now we turn it over to anybody in the public that wants to comment on nuclear energy within our county. Do we have any out there that want to talk about nuclear energy tonight? I'm seeing no public people, no public participation. How about commissioners?
I guess we did receive a letter from one Jerry Holder regarding that.
Yeah.
Was there any other comments that had been voiced, concerns, Stan?
At this time, that's pretty much all we've had. I'm kind of a bit perplexed because we've addressed some of the other energy aspects in the county with the solar. We definitely are in the midst of a wind discussion, and nuclear is now part of it. But nuclear, right, at least at this point, hasn't been rising up to a high level of discussion. We've had it out there a couple months now, at least, on us, information items, and it was posted for a public hearing as well tonight. But I don't know what the explanation is. I know that a lot of times when we're juggling lots of different issues kind of all at once, if we get I don't know if there's a such term as zoning fatigue or something of that nature, but I hope to continue. We do have concerns about harvest and that aspect of moving forward. And of course, the priorities have been examining the wind issue, and of course, all of our applications that come in on a regular basis. So I think we'll have to kind of keep it out there. As far as nuclear, it'll afford us some time to continue studying it, but I also don't see it as quite to the level of controversial as far as matching it up possibly to the industrial and being very clear, and yet with the level of federal regulations. I don't see it going to the point of the comprehensive rewrite or the right that we had as far as the solar policy as well as the re-exploration of wind and those aspects. But I think we just gotta kind of keep the lines of communication open and not jump to a decision quickly because of the time frame that we're in right now. I'll continue to work with our liaisons, of course, and keep them updated as far as, you know, time frame. But I think we're all very mindful in Woodbury County as far as our farm community is a big part of stakeholders on these type of issues. And we definitely don't want to make any major decision right at the time where harvest is undergoings, but we've definitely valuably used the last several weeks to engage. I had a meeting with Mid-American on the 20th of August and kind of chatted with them about nuclear, and some of their comments reflected what Mr. Montino had said about the level of federal regulation. And so it kind of comes to us on as far as recognizing that the compatibility with the federal, they're the strongest level of regulation, but yet we as a people of a county definitely would probably want to look at a process that we're all informed. We know what's going on through the process. So always keeping the people in mind is of essence. And I think that our zoning ordinance kind of reflects that on these issues like telecommunication and various other things that have high levels of federal regulation. And again, it's very clear that yes, pipelines still are a conditional use permit. So those high level aspects of intergovernmental relations, there's conditional use permits involved. So that's really the justification why I put that in there as far as to show you maybe a potential option. And of course, we can look at, you know, maybe there's other alternatives that we could look at for language or compatibility, but I just simply wanted to show you a similar process that we've done in the past as far as trying to add to and kind of piggyback or complement our ordinance and those type of process. But that's really all I got at this point. But I hope we can get further public engagement as some of these applications kind of slow down for winter, and we can I can maybe work with the chair as far as timelines on when we feel we best can get a suitable recommendation over to the Board of Supervisors that we can clearly say to them that we've engaged the public. But
Right.
it's quite obvious that farming's going on right now.
Right,
So-
right. Okay. So do we have any comments or anything from any of the commissioners? Any thoughts that they want to share? Things we don't have
I-
public comment.
I guess there are no proposals. Nobody's approached the county regarding this, correct?
Yeah, there's not been somebody that's directly come to the office said, yeah, we're looking for citing a project. What we're doing is when we receive the direction from the Board of Supervisors, this is an exploratory function. I think Supervisor Raddick had kind of pointed out, basically, we've looked at solar, we've looked at wind, we've kind of had this energy conversation over the last couple of years. And so it kind of just makes sense to nuclear is an option out there. And it just makes sense to kind of put that up there as one of the energy options to talk about as far as this portfolio of conversation. So.
And a further comment on that, then until there's a project proposed, we probably won't get a lot of good response from the county residents just because it's not a direct impact.
Yeah, unfortunately, public policy sometimes is tougher on the proactive end where you don't have a proposal in front of you, but you want to sort of lay out conditions for a future type of thing. So this is kind of in a sense creating an environment, possibly, depending on if the landowners and the public can offer some, level of support. Again, we got to be very clear here that we're putting this out there to the public to talk about, to look at, to facilitate, to see if there's, some level of demand. I don't think tonight's a good indicator as far as this being a public hearing for that, but at the same time, hopefully we'll get more info as far as, timing and engagement. It's not in a sense the best timing as far as, taking up the new policy, but you'll see how the packet kind of reflects the the initial conversations that we at least received from some of the folks. And so there's not a high level of opposition or agreement kind of at this point, but it is nice to, see a few diverse opinions in there, at least up to this point.
Anything else? No? At this point?
But I kind of think because you're not sending a recommendation up to the board, or maybe probably entertain some motion to look at this at a future time would be, or more like a tabling or something so that we can consider it in the future.
Do you want to table looking at this until people are out of the fields? Is that what I keep hearing, like January?
I think that it's probably good that we probably keep at least the conversation going, at least for information items,
Okay.
but having some type of schedule where we're confident that we can engage folks. I think that we can continue to research it from the, the article standpoint, the study standpoint, that type of thing, and, report back and kind of talk about it. But I think that we need the public. We absolutely need the public. And so I do think we'll just kind of have to either table or defer, future public hearings, but continue to keep it active, keep
Information, keep it on the agenda.
keep it active that we're looking at it.
Okay. So you want a motion to continue to do that?
However, the board or commission chooses to phrase that.
Anyone?
I had one more comment. Last meeting, gentleman that spoke talked about it was a 30-year process. And I think that has something to do with people don't see the urgency to
Mhm.
really tackle it, and they're lined up to speak about it since it's such a lengthy process. Things can change in 30 years, so I don't.
It is. And I think that we've learned a lot about this modular nuclear. So it's actually divided into, different branches. The modular is going to become probably a little bit more mainstream as it grows and it's proving itself as a whole. And those are things we got to be mindful of and watch and carefully research. But this can be as simple as putting the environment in place, as depending on how the public feels. An environment means an ordinance route to get there, kind of at some point. And that's what I put in the packet, is that the goal there was to be reflective of what our zoning ordinance has in it as far as other types of uses. And that's why I put the conditional use permit in there. That's why I put if you look very carefully, much of our utility or energy-based policies are conditional uses, which require the scrutiny, the engagement of the public. And yeah, that's how you get that. You involve the zoning commission, you involve the board of adjustment as far as the teams that are together to acquire the information from the public. So if we do set it up at some point that we get an application in 5 years to get on a 30-year track, we have an environment there. And this is kind of about signaling, is Woodbury County an appropriate location that could generally be acceptable or even friendly to nuclear developers, as far as would this be an appropriate site? And with the different levels of energy that we've discussed and, decided that certain go in certain areas of the county, et cetera, I think it's reasonable that it's part of the public discussion. So yeah, I fully agree with you that it makes it hard for proactive public policy on 30-year projects for sure. So yes, being able to engage, Mid-American or various other companies that kind of know the industry to an extent is definitely helpful. And I fully appreciate the time they gave me on the 20th to at least kind of glean from their expertise on what's going on in their industry. And I hope when we get, more towards future public hearings, they and maybe other companies might engage us, further on what they would see as, something industry standard or appropriate that could fit with a process. But I think the conditional use itself kind of lends to the facilitating all the flow of information that we've experienced kind of in the past. and as well as the compatibility aspects that we see with telecommunication towers and other things when there's so many federal regulations involved that we might, if we start enumerating different things, are we regulating in the spots that we should be or should not be? If we enumerate ordinances like that, we run that risk. But if we follow more of the conditional use path, we sort of put ourselves into a line of compatibility with the stringent requirements. And I think conditional use gives us a seat at the table as far as the other government partners, as far as knowing and learning and having public hearings. So those most affected by the projects will know about them, be able to engage in that process. So those are the things we'll probably have to really engage with the public and get their opinions on what their expectations are when we get closer to that. So I would say that we have some time to further research and get out of this harvest and fully engage the public on it. So.
And we want to move forward. Commissioners?
Unless we just plan on scheduling and I could work with the chair.
I guess one comment I'd make on that is it would be nice to have some input from Mid-American to determine where their line of thought is on how far the distant future is to replace the existing power source or complement it with not only wind and solar, but also nuclear if possible, and have a little input from them on the timeline. And then the next thing would be, I'm assuming it's more just to determine where this would be a possible use and what, where do we want to put it? Is it just industrial or is there other uses? And that's a decision I guess I can't make because I don't fully understand where some of these projects would be suitable or could be.
I know the information that we had from emergency services
Mhm.
last meeting was that they typically need a lot of water. So they're going to be by a river or lake or something to that effect, which is amazingly where our industrial area
Yeah.
is.
And maybe that will be the area that will fit the best for those purposes. But
Right.
I guess
Continue.
maybe it'd be good to put it as a item to maybe schedule a meeting for some public comment or input.
Yeah.
Like you said, get past
And
the harvest.
Side of our usual zoning commission meeting and
and,
just make it a public meeting somewhere.
Right, just informational meeting and take public comment
yeah,
so we can get
Some kind of.
That's
somebody to
feedback.
show up.
that's what I envisioned kind of originally. You may go back on record where I said, let's move this out to, like a Salix or a Sloan kind of near the industrial areas at some point to kind of collect the input. I just, I wish we were at a different time of year right now
Right.
because of the timing and everything of that nature. Because we know very well the value that we glean out of the maximum level of unincorporated residents. So,
And that's the thing, we're not in a crunch here, so we have that ability to get suitable input.
but yeah, I think we could even, in the meantime, maybe just have these public hearings or at least these discussions where we can do kind of progress on, I'll leave the communication channel open, trying to collect comments and see what we can kind of keep coming in, but we can maybe spend kind of take it easy through harvest, but kind of let it be known that we're not going to rush to any decision,
Right.
but yet keep the, flow of information going, because it's essential that we communicate that we're not going to go jump to a quick decision on these things. So we could just, take it up again next month or
Okay.
the discussions. So I don't even,
Just keep it on the agenda and just have it as a
yeah.
informational.
And yeah, you as chair, we can kind of work through that
Okay.
and do that. So
But you need a motion then to do something.
just take it, maybe just a motion to take it up again next month. There's something real clean that speaks to that.
I'll make a motion to take this up next month, and if Dan, you have an opportunity to discuss with Chris on that.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Next item on the agenda. Review of conditional use permit application for the installation and use of 300-foot wind turbines. Dan, you want to read that information into the record?
Yes. That would put us on what, page 47 of the packet.
Yes.
Okay, L&K Tabke Holdings LLC, Kathy Tabke, has filed a conditional use permit application for the installation and use of 3 100-foot wind turbines to reduce electrical costs on their farm. The proposed locations are around 5.2 miles southeast of Mobile, which is on the south side of 195th Street and east side of Jasper Avenue. The property is located in the Agricultural Preservation Zoning District, and electric wind generator for private use is classified as a conditional use in section 3.03.4 of the Woodbury County zoning ordinance, which is eligible for review by the zoning commission and for consideration of approval by the Board of Adjustment. The proposal has been properly noticed in the Sioux City Journal's legal section on September 21, 2024. The neighbors within 500 feet were duly notified via September 18th letter about the Board of Adjustment public hearing on October 7th. Appropriate stakeholders, including government agencies, utilities, and organizations, have been requested to comment. Based on the information received and the requirements set forth in the ordinance, the proposal can meet the criteria for approval of the conditional use permit. And you might recall about a year or so ago, we had one of these before, which was the Walker property down there by Hornick that cited one of these private use wind turbines, and the applicants definitely want to use these private wind sources as a mechanism to empower their farm. And it looks like the applicant, Kathy Tabke, is here with us tonight. And so that's all I got at this point.
Kathy, do you have anything you want to add to our packet here? Okay, and we might have questions. Anyway. Okay, do we have any questions or comments from the commissioners?
I guess first off, I'd like to point out this is private. It's separate from our commercial wind turbine zonings ordinance. The use is when I first saw 3 turbines, but then you look at the capacity, it's well within the limits of what a farm with hog buildings, whatever, would use for power generation. I'm assuming there'll be a net metering agreement with the power company. After 5 years, that'll expire.
There's a button that you need to press.
I have postponed that based on the determination of the board. So as soon as I'm done here, knowing what's going on, then yes, I plan to contact REC.
I currently, that is their policy. I think it's a 5-year term, and then after that, the net metering would change to a purchase. But it doesn't become commercial at that point. It's still a private installation. So I guess that's the comment I would make ahead of time, is this is different than commercial. It's for private use, same as the solar policy we have. So that's it. Thank you, I guess.
Anyone else? Commissioners, anything else? I'm not hearing anything. No questions, no comments. Seems cut and dried. Are we ready to make,
I
do you have a?
if I may, I would comment. As far as generally, this rises to a conditional use permit because the fact that yes, it can support a farm operation, it's part of a farm operation, et cetera, but it doesn't quite get to the level of the agricultural exemption as far as the intensity of these structures being placed on the property. They're basically 100 foot, but typically Iowa code affords for the support of a farm operation if it's adapted for respective agricultural uses by way of the structure. So if, for example, you simplify a shed can be justified as far as helping a farm operate a farm if it's, being used for tractor storage or your regular functions on a farm. Typically the agricultural exemption, you're not encountering setbacks and spacings and different issues there. And you'll look kind of on the site plans there. The key is that it doesn't cross over onto the right of ways and the respective property areas, but there's always definitely concerns in the ordinances as far as how far structures are off of each other. Typically, we like to have things 10 feet or more away. When you're dealing with 100-foot towers, et cetera, you can see that the goal was for us to learn that, they definitely try to exceed the 10 feet off of each structure. But in terms of the practical sense, the zoning ordinance doesn't facilitate enough as far as language off of other structures. So in terms of looking at farming use and as far as where the placement is and everything, it's imperative that the property owners kind of are aware and assume the risk that you have a 100-foot tower 10 feet or so away from your other structures. We know that the right-of-way line and the other property owners can be protected if, the fall zone is on the respective property, but they kind of go in knowingly as far as the agricultural exemption, as far as, structure placement, et cetera, that other structures could possibly have damage at some point if there was any kind of falling. But our ordinance doesn't have, a level of spacing that directly addresses that. So in the sense of farming and operation of that, I don't see any, restriction for that other than staying off of the right-of-way areas. But I just wanted to preface that for the record.
And I guess I'd like to correct too. I wasn't speaking of it as a farm exemption. I was just talking typically that power usage by that size of an entity would be suitable for these
Yeah.
3 towers. I think they're 15 kW a piece. So,
Yeah, and
and the setback from their building to the I mean, you could have a grain leg right next to a building too. And
Yeah.
I think some of that's just
Mhm.
their own knowledge that could happen.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make that clear for the record, and I'm not invoking the ag exemption. I'm just saying that we typically see a lot of structures, and that's the number one question that non-farmers oftentimes reference about farmers. Why do they get to do that or that? But that don't apply to this situation as far as this is a valid conditional use permit that we would engage with the conditional use permit process, and yes, they would file the building permit on this one as well.
If this was not farming, just a residence, what is the distance, or is there a setback?
There isn't.
none. Okay.
There isn't.
Same. So we're
And-
not making exceptions.
We're not, and I just want to
Within-
shed light on the fact that we don't have ordinance language that establishes a private use setback at this time. So It's basically going through this conditional use permit process like we did with Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker down there by Hornick was pretty close to the property line where the Board of Adjustment in particular, I think you all kind of touched on it too. We needed to know that it met that zoning district dimensional standard setback of actually 10 feet off of the property line for the accessory structure. But we made it very clear in that meeting that it met the setback there. But then the question is, when you're that close to a property line with a 100-foot tower, that neighbor better be well aware that, there's a 100-foot tower sitting next to a 10-foot setback. And if you do the math there,
Potential risk.
yeah, so those are the things that should kind of, eventually be examined. But with the infrastructure we have now in this current ordinance, we have to look at the zoning district setbacks specifically through this approval process. So I just want to shed light on that. And since I've been here, this is just the second time we've ran into this as far as the net metering situation for private / farming type of use.
Any other comments? No? Ready to go into closed session?
Yeah, motion to go closed session.
Okay, we got a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Commissioners, what have you?
I can motion to recommend approval of the conditional use permit request to the Board of Adjustment.
You have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Motion carries. It goes on to the
Okay.
next step.
Okay.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda,
Page 74.
page 74, review of conditional use permit application for the installation and use of a 250-foot self-support wireless communications tower to replace an existing tower. Hey, Dan, do you want to read that information into the record, please?
Yes, American Towers LLC and the Bradley J. Cobold Trust have filed a conditional use permit application to request to construct a 250-foot self-support wireless communications tower to replace an existing tower from the area on parcel number 87472040004. This proposed location is about 1/2 mile west of Salix, which is on the north side of 260th Street and west of Barker Avenue. The parcel is located in the General Industrial Zoning District, and telecommunication towers are classified as a conditional use in section 3.03.4 of the Woodbury County zoning ordinance, which is eligible for zoning commission review and consideration of approval by the Board of Adjustment. This proposal has been noticed in the Sioux City Journal's legal section on September 21st, 2024. The neighbors within 1 mile, this is our big one, were duly notified via a September 18th, 2024 letter about October 7th, 2024's Board of Adjustment public hearing. Appropriate stakeholders, including government agencies, utilities, and organizations, have been requested to comment. Based on the information received and the requirements set forth in the zoning ordinance, the proposal meets the appropriate criteria for approval for the conditional use. It is the recommendation of staff to approve the proposal. I will point you to page 75, which makes a reference to Iowa Code 8C, which does set standards for what the local governments cannot ask or engage in through the conditional use permit process, which pretty much deems our review looking at the siting functions such as the setbacks and the respective positioning on the property. After review by staff, it looks like that the applicants did their due diligence in terms of having it positioned in a way that is suitable on the respective properties. So again, staff would recommend approval. So, and the we do have Andy with us here tonight on behalf of American Tower as well.
Do you have anything that you'd like to add to the packet?
And you push. If you push those buttons.
Not at this time.
Okay.
Everything in the packet is pretty explanatory. There's a tower that is about 500 feet west. To my driving, 500 feet away. That lease is expiring. So that tower will come down. Our plan is if this gets all through the approval process, we build a new one. Then once this is up and running, that tower would come down.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? If not, go into closed session.
And make a motion to go into closed session.
We have a motion. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, we are now in closed session. Commissioners, now questions or comments?
I make a motion to recommend approval of the construction and use of the communications tower on the property identified as a parcel stated.
Okay, I have a motion. Could I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carried. On to the next step.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda. This is an informational item. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Consideration of a recommendation contemplating decommissioning requirements as part of a new ordinance regarding carbon pipeline. Dan, do you want to read this information into the record, please?
Yes, last month, I think, we were the night before the Board of Supervisor direction. And I kind of mentioned to you that they may be tasking us to look at if there's any way possible to have some type of ordinance, maybe a standalone ordinance that the zoning commission and even Board of Adjustment and staff and possibly the county attorney's office and maybe even hired counsel could look at as far as these liquid hazardous pipelines, in particular carbon based pipelines. And the supervisors are looking for us to kind of explore decommissioning and the aspect of, okay, a pipeline is put into the ground. There is different levels of regulation, federal regulation, we know in particular with PHMSA regulating what those expectations are for decommissioning. A lot of them typically are plugging them and kind of draining them out and they just are kind of there in the ground. And what they want us to do is explore and see if there's anything that the local jurisdiction can do in an extra fashion to have a decommissioning situation or have a requirement at the local level as far as, okay, these pipelines have ran their lifespan, they're no longer used for X amount of time. Do we need those there in place further? And I will say under some preliminary research, pipeline law is pretty well established on the different types at the federal level as far as what you can and cannot do. They regulate the safety. It's been a very big part of the ongoing discussion that we've had for a number of years now when we've looked at CO2 on the other aspects of expressing zoning on it. But we're kind of in an exploratory phase. But what I'm seeing right now when I read into PHMSA is it is so heavily regulated on the federal side. I'm not aware yet on other jurisdictions going down this route of finding a way to regulate on top of that. And that's a very important part of this because we need to really see if there's some type of level of precedent. A lot of times when you're the first one trying something, we know that the scrutiny level is quite heavy if something hasn't been proven yet in the marketplace of public policy. And so it's my goal through this process with the both of the boards, and I'm asking the boards right now just to simply kind of do your own independent research. I'll do my research and we'll hopefully come together at some point and be able to bounce some ideas back and forth kind of at the board level. But ultimately, the missing piece is the attorneys as far as giving us guidance to see, you know, we have X amount of information, X amount of data. Maybe we could even write an ordinance, but I haven't seen any existing ordinances yet out there at this point that talk about decommissioning, sort of piggybacking off of the federal guidelines. And so I've been there so far searching and looking, and, you know, I'm not totally convinced yet that I can say that there isn't something out there, but I'm still looking for it. And so that we can kind of explore this further, but, and I'm hoping we can have an all hands on deck. And I'll say that as far as the Board of Adjustment, if you're just kind of thinking about some point, please do some searches and kind of your own way of, you know, processing research and understanding, and kind of keep a dialogue with me as well. If you kind of come up with something, I'd ask you to point me to it. And then we can, of course, have our agenda items and meetings to kind of see to the point, can we get to a work session on it, that type of thing. But I'm finding it to be a very exploratory function at this point in time. And that's the number one thing that I personally always look for is somebody else doing it?
Mhm.
I think that's the number one thing, is somebody else doing it, and have they been successful at it?
And really, the attorney isn't going to get involved until we do find something and see if it's been tested yet.
Yeah, and they do. I think, I can't speak for them, but I know that anytime I've ever went to the county attorney's office and brought an ordinance or anything on behalf of the commission, when we've researched something, they oftentimes ask me, Joshua's asked me, who's doing that? Or is this language from another jurisdiction? And I think we all bring that up at certain points on different policy. So that has to be a very essential thing that we, you know, apply to the situation and work in conjunction with the attorneys on it.
We've
for
already
sure.
found that it's best to let somebody else test the waters.
That's a fair statement as far as looking at past precedent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really all I got at this point, but the Board of Adjustment technically met after the direction, but before so they're aware of it too. They typically are not the board for the research. It is the zoning commission.
Okay.
And we always brief them and try to keep them, you know, fully in tuned and up to date. But the supervisor specifically asked for their involvement with this. So we'll have 5 extra helpers
Good.
as far as looking through some data.
We'll
So,
have a team.
so
Okay. Question?
that's all I got for this.
Comment, I guess they're kind of like the railroad. I think the pipeline companies are kind of like the railroads. They have a lot of power, a lot of authority. I have 3 pipelines running across my property, and one of the difficulties is the fact of those easements being drafted in the 40s and the 50s, and to go in and change or renegotiate those, it's very difficult to get anywhere.
To willingly give them up, I think.
Yeah,
That's like
and
the
that's
rough-
well, and that's one of the things I've been told from the pipeline side is they don't give up the easement even if they abandon the pipeline.
Mhm.
They still maintain that easement for the
Just in
right.
case,
Yeah.
right, for
So,
future
and
use.
they actually have easements across property that have never had pipelines put on from 60 years ago, but
Mhm.
they've kept those easements.
Right.
So,
Right.
One word that I always kind of adopt is it's intricate. The whole makeup of that industry and the types of pipelines. And you might recall a couple of years ago when we were looking at the hazardous liquidous pipelines as a potential ordinance, and the information that got put into the backup materials and the packets, several industry companies did offer kind of comments, because they're right ready to point out the federal regulations and the safety being regulated at different levels and citing the DOT's, PHMSA's code sections and everything. So we got to be real, careful and scrutinizing, where we can exercise, local authority if we can, or can we not? It just kind of, those are some questions to look at, but I see it as a very intricate discussion when we get into these policies that have heavy federal involvement. With the telecommunication towers, that's intricate too, because Iowa Code 8C, on like with the previous agenda item, that enumerates directly in code what you can and cannot do. And so it kind of gets to a point of your box is sort of narrowed in on you on what your own policy playground is, as far as federal supremacy over a lot of local policy.
Right.
And I think there are counties currently that are facing the issue with the carbon pipelines, and there's litigation currently going on
Yeah.
within the state. So I think we're going to find out those answers without us being the one that's
Doing
testing the water.
experimenting.
So spending the money. So
Okay.
Right, okay. Are you ready to go on to the next item on the agenda? Public comment not on on matters not on the agenda. I'm hearing none, and I see no one's on the phone.
No one's on the phone.
We have no one here. Then 7 is staff update.
Yeah, right now we're, tomorrow night will be the second reading of the ordinance, proposed changes to the ordinance 56, the commercial wind ordinance. And we had a pretty full room in terms of chairs out there last Tuesday. And basically, there's several amendments, and there are 8 amendments that look at adjusting non-participating property line setbacks and kind of clarifying the language of occupied residence. And the county has safety data sheets that went through the Ohio Public Utilities Commission through a filing out there that defined the Nordex system. And I think I touched base on this a little bit last month, but it talks about the safety ratings of 1 kilometer for thunderstorms and lightning, or kind of safety protocols for technicians and folks that are kind of in proximity of those. And that's 3,280 feet. And the other was the fire is basically a 0.5 kilometer in terms of various safety protocols. But the lot of that, and looking at some past incidents and things that have occurred within the industry. And I made it, I hopefully pretty clear at the supervisor meeting that the industry as a whole tends to be pretty safe across the board. Very little incidents here and there, but the fact is there are incidents out there that have occurred that the public has pointed out, as far as, one incident can be too many of an incident. So in terms of a public safety. And so safety has been a big part of a lot of these ordinance changes and ordinance amendments. The population of Woodbury County has been very engaged on the wind, as you know, for a lot of years from the original passage. And we had quite a meeting out there in Lawton at the end of April, where a lot of the public expressed their concerns. And the beginning of August there, I don't have the date off the top of my head, but a petition was delivered to the Board of Supervisors, basically saying that there's new information that has been discovered, such as the items like the safety data sheets, et cetera. And the supervisors basically directed staff and wanted to have these public hearings as far as having the discussion on the safety and the potential of expanding out those setbacks in the realm of protecting the public safety. And the safety is, of course, paramount. I think everybody tends to be very mindful of what can we do at times to keep the public as safe as possible in these situations. And I think the data sheets have been a big eye opener as far as these different systems. But the industry does have various models, and I would have to defer back to kind of my comments as well as some of the supervisors' comments at the last meeting. But you've got your Vestas and Nordex and Siemens and different types of models that the industry uses, and you can kind of compare generally the heights of different ones. And we know that the industry and this debate is not just Woodbury County. There's been, Page County has went through a lot of these debates. I know Jackson County and various others, and Nebraska has been in through a lot of these debates. So it's been very common as part of the public discourse. But I encourage folks on all sides of the debate to engage, to come to the meetings, to offer information as a whole. That's what those 3 public hearings are all about, to educate the public and the supervisors who ultimately make a choice on that. And information is valuable. I think we experience it here at the Zoning Commission a lot on what the public can offer as a whole. But just wanted to give you an update on that. That's been a big debate. This is the 3rd time that ordinance changes have come up, and it's been such a passionate debate that's come directly grassroots from the public. So,
Right.
so
But all you have to.
I'm trying to think. I think I do, but if I forget something, I will be sure to let you know. But I think we got it covered. The Board of Adjustment, there is that week in between, so your recommendations will be sent over to the Board of Adjustment for the 7th. Your recommendation on the rezone goes to the Board of Supervisors, so you feed into both of those boards.
Okay,
So,
good. Keep them active, keep them busy.
yeah.
All right, commissioners, comments or inquiries? Inquiries, item number 8. Everyone is silent. We'll move on to adjournment. Corey, you want to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We are now adjourned.